Robbo.
Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight, and David Robinson.
Ben, Robbo. News, reviews, entertainment news. It's the Ben, Robbo. Ben, Robbo Show. Ben, Robbo Show.
Welcome to the Ben, Robbo Show. Here's Rob McKnight.
Hello and welcome to the Ben, Robbo Show. Joining me as always is the wonderful Ben Norris and David Robbo Robinson. Hello boys. Ben, how are you today?
I am doing so well. I can't believe that Thursday is our Friday, which means that this is the last show for the week. And I've already got like a mini bar that's like next to the studio. When I say studio, I mean bedroom. And I'm going to drink everything that's in there.
Yes, I think it would be. And Robbo, we had an amazing reaction to yesterday's show. Thousands upon thousands of people have watched the show. So it's a great response, and we're only 2 weeks in. I'm very, very grateful to the people that are taking the time to watch us. And a lot of people are doing it over their lunch break. And if they miss us, they're catching up during the evening.
Well, it's absolutely awesome, and we wouldn't be anywhere without our wonderful audience. So we're very thankful, and here's hoping that they can stay with us because we've got so much more coming up.
Absolutely. Today we'll be talking movies with Joe Casamento, and we will also be meeting the wonderful Peter Hellier, who will be talking about the second season of How to Stay Married. And also I'm going to ask him about, as a comedian, how the COVID-19 how COVID-19 is impacting the stand-up community. And don't forget, if you want to join the conversation, we now have the technology to put your feedback on the screen. So on Twitter, use the hashtag BRR show, and on Facebook go to facebook.com/TV Blackbox, because that's where we're doing the commentary at the moment for the show, but we'll move it across to the Ben Robbo official Facebook page soon. Meanwhile, let's get into today's stories. And there's no denying Australia is winning the fight against the coronavirus, but experts warn there could be a second wave coming. Deputy Chief Medical Officer Paul Kelly has also warned that states and territories on the brink of relaxing some defence measures, we could see more infections. Ben, we've done really well here. Are we just going to stuff it all up?
Look, I think that we have done really well, and it's going to be a case of a couple of steps forward and a couple of steps back. I really don't think that we're going to be that surprised. Well, I'm not going to be surprised if we move from, stage 3 back to stage 2 and then to stage 3 again. I think that we're all going to need to just be a little bit flexible with all of this. I think at the moment we're feeling really good about ourselves, and we really should be, but we just need to keep following, what the government's saying we should do. And hopefully we will continue to be one of the countries that's leading this battle against a horrible virus.
Robert, there's no doubt people are chomping at the bit to try and get outside, go to Bunnings. I've talked on this show about how the lines at Bunnings were huge when I went there last time, and people weren't exactly obeying social distancing. But people want to get back to some semblance of normality. Will we ever go back to normality? Will we shake hands at business meetings ever again?
Well, I have to say I agree entirely with Ben. I think that was a great way of explaining that that's what we need to be, and quite flexible. So I totally agree. There needs to be that idea that we'll probably go back and forth. And if we do need to go back and forth, then that's because we've got to take the action again. We've been so good at, as you said, in containing the virus and flattening that curve. Will we ever get back to normal? I really do think we will, but it depends on how flexible people are, as Ben is saying, that if we adhere to these messages, if we go back and forth and that's okay, then hopefully we can flatten it even more to the point where we can get back to normal life. But I do think we're probably going a bit early. I think that, we could probably all suck it up still with the social distancing and the lockdown, just to keep it, at bay as much as possible before we head back into normal life.
Yeah, but we're all patting ourselves on the back, and Australia has done a great job. But the fact is, there are a lot of people who haven't obeyed the rules. We're seeing footballers caught out on TikTok for breaking the rules with girls over at their places. Have we really done as well as we think we have?
Look,
well,
I do think we have, but you can look at the numbers. You go, Ben.
Yeah, and I would say that, no, I think that, it's unfortunate that some of these people who have a bit of a profile or maybe even have a following on TikTok and they're just an everyday person break these rules, because I don't necessarily think that is retrospective of what is actually going on. I think that the large percent of Australians are doing the right thing, and should it be that surprising that people who are a bit of attention seekers are the ones that are not doing the right thing and then capturing it and putting it on social media? I mean, it just sounds really stupid. Those people should be laughed at a little bit more than just being on TikTok.
For sure. All right. As the country continues to reel from the coronavirus, there are a group of people are refusing to budge on their six-figure paychecks. Councils across Victoria say that COVID-19 is taking a massive chunk out of their revenue. Despite record unemployment across the state and the councils laying off staff, it's been revealed that many councillors and mayors are refusing to take a pay cut. But, wouldn't you know it, at the same time they want to hit struggling families with higher rates. Robbo, they signed up for that amount. Is it fair that they continue to get their agreements?
No, I really don't think so. I know this is unprecedented with COVID-19, but I think when you're laying off staff, you've got to think about all of the things that councils do. So libraries, pools, sporting centres, all of those places have employees, and they're being all laid off, but not the big fat cats at the top, not the elite. They couldn't possibly, take a little pay cut. There are TV stars who are taking a pay cut. There are CEOs taking a pay cut.
Well, if TV stars are taking a pay cut, come on.
That's right. But also, Jacinta Ardern reduced her pay by 20%. If the Prime Minister of a country can do it, I think it's outrageous for Melbourne CEOs or council CEOs and mayors to not do the same. One of them did say that they will keep their entire pay packet, but they will continue to donate a portion of it to a charity. Oh, good on you, buddy. Thanks so much for that. Really well done. That must have been tough.
I'm going to ask the question, Ben. Is it time to get rid of local council? Would government be more efficient if we just had the state government run our suburbs rather than having all these different rules with bins and all these different people getting paid to effectively do the same job? If we just had these bureaucracies that could control all the councils instead of individual councils, would that be better?
Look, I think in theory what you're trying to get at is that it does sound like that should be a better idea and obviously would save a bit of money. But I'm a little bit out of my depth on whether I can make comment about whether or not that seems like a smart idea. I'm of the likes that at the moment I think we should be relying on some of the structures that we already do have in place. I find that it's disgusting, though, discussing about people's pay and the people that are setting the tone for the rest of Australians to not do the right things themselves. So, look, I think we're in uncharted territory. We just have to, I think, learn from what we have learned this pandemic. And I think there'll probably be another one, unfortunately. And then by that stage, who knows what we'll be operating with? Who knows whether those local councils will still be there?
Look, Robbo, I say this because I think local councils is an ongoing issue, and we see it when it comes to approvals for buildings. There are different sets of rules depending on who's running the local council, and I think that there is a big waste of money going into those local councils where it could be better spent if it was all just merged.
Well, we've got to remember that Peter Beattie in Queensland, quite some years ago now, but started to amalgamate a lot of councils and make them bigger. So he got rid of smaller, shire councils and things like that and made them bigger. Here in the Sunshine Coast, they did just that, and Sunshine Coast became a much bigger council and absorbed a lot of the little ones. Because you're exactly right, there's a lot of waste, there's a lot of double up.
I don't in New South Wales too. How did it go where you live, Robbo?
It went fine. Obviously, the shires who were getting swallowed up didn't like it, but it did, I think, create a more even government here. I don't know that we can get rid of local councils, though. I think the more you give government, so if state government had to look after the bins as well and things like that, I think a lot more stuff would fall through the cracks. I think local government is still, needed.
Okay. We'll agree to disagree. Prime Minister Scott Morrison is joining a growing list of world leaders who want to see wet markets banned. Wet markets have gained notoriety since it was discovered that the coronavirus started in one in Wuhan, China. Mr. Morrison was the first world leader to call for such a ban. Ben, is this appropriate though? This is part of some people's cultures. So is it racist to push our ideals onto someone else?
Well, I think it is in some ways, but I think, with a lot of things that Scott Morrison's doing at the moment, I think he's just trying to do the best thing that he can. However, I think, some people are obviously going to be offended about this decision. I personally think that it seems like the right thing to do, but maybe that's just me.
Robbo, what do you think here? Because I do understand that different cultures do eat different things. We're looked at, the cow is sacred to some cultures. We eat a lot of cow. Do we understand that we can't force our ideals onto other people?
Well, the cow, I think it's a really good example there, Rob, because the cow is a part of religion. Wet markets, as I understand it, are really not. There are people within the Chinese community who believe, Chinese herbal medicine and things like that. That's why you need to eat. For example, I'm not making a joke here, a gallbladder out of a certain type of snake, and that's meant to fix certain ailments. The problem here is that wet markets don't operate on another planet. They operate here. So if problems like COVID-19 happen in a wet market and they would have only happened in a wet market, then yeah, I think we do all have a right to say, look, you can't do that anymore. It's not appropriate. It affects so many other people. It's just something that you can't do in the world community.
Well, look, we're obviously seeing a situation where China is getting pretty upset with us because we are demanding inquiries into how the coronavirus started. They're really pushing back, Robbo. They ambushed the press conference with Twiggy Forrest yesterday. They're really making statements about Australia and that Australia needs to remember where it gets a lot of money from as far as our exporting. So is this something we need to play safe on the economic front? Because going to a war of words with China could have a financial impact on us.
No, it definitely could. And China has also released, details of a private conversation, which Australia has officially said that they're disappointed with. I think we do need to, tread carefully. But at the same time, we're our own country. We should be able to say, this is not appropriate. This is not right. We're not happy. Just because you're the bigger brother doesn't mean that we can't point out that maybe you could do things differently. Yes, of course, we rely on China and China relies on us. But I do believe that we need to be a little bit more aggressive than what we normally would do. Fair
enough. Let's head to Canberra now, and it appears to be the one thing that coronavirus can't stop, and that is the sports rot saga. Embattled Senator Bridget McKenzie has just released a 20-page statement saying that she does take responsibility, but defended her ministerial discretion. Robbo, you're passionate about this story. Has she gone too far?
She hasn't gone far enough. This story used to make me so angry, and I'm glad that it's still getting a little bit of press. It was the arrogance of the government that said, well, we don't have to answer questions. We can do whatever we want. And that was the biggest problem. I do think it goes probably all the way up to the Prime Minister's office. I think she did take a fall. I think that we'll probably see Bridget McKenzie pop up in some ambassadorship overseas at some point just to, say, thanks for taking the fall for us there, sweetheart. But it's being quiet now. I really do. There'll be a payoff there somehow. You've got to remember, I think we've got a shot here. There's the spreadsheets, the colour-coded spreadsheets that just happened to show that where the electorate was a little bit, shaky and where it was a safe electorate, and the shaky electorate's got all the money, and that all the evidence was here, but none of them can come out and say, yes, I take responsibility. She says by resigning from her front bench role, that's her taking responsibility, but, she did have ministerial discretion. No, you didn't. The Auditor Office said that the discretion shouldn't have been there. Sports Australia said the discretion wasn't there and shouldn't have been. They raised that with them. So this is the best they can do. So it's almost like, sorry that you feel annoyed what we did with your money. It's not an apology. And it's not taking responsibility.
I'm sorry if I'm sorry if you took offence. But look, it comes on the same day. There's a story in today's SMH saying New South Wales Minister Stuart Ayres directly intervened in a sporting grants program, doesn't this sound familiar, which was run by the New South Wales Office of Sport, which awarded the bulk of a $33.4 million funding pool to projects in Liberal electorates in the lead up to the 2019 state election. Ben! They think they can get away with this, but they do get away with this.
You know what's really funny about that? I used to be friends with this person that every time she started a problem, it was never her fault. And it just kept happening again and again. The dramas kept escalating. But then as soon as there was any accountability that had to be taken, this person just pushed the blame and said, you know what? Oh, gosh, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. And you know what the scenario for this story is? I'm no longer friends with that person. And that's the thing. When it comes to government doing the wrong thing and not being made accountable for it, shouldn't we be learning from that lesson? Shouldn't we be maybe not friending them, or should I say re-electing them?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Ultimately, it comes down to the voters, and voters need to start holding people accountable. But I think we live in an age where people actually respond to this going, we hate it, but of course they do it. We're almost resigned to the fact that politicians are corrupt.
We let them get away with it every single time. I mean, this is the thing with so many Australians standing around the water cooler, getting a bee in their bonnet about things that keep reoccurring. At the end of the day, people need to understand it's a responsibility for us to vote here in this country, and we are required to do so. But what your vote does counts. And I guess there's too many people in this country who just tick a box because their family always voted one way. Look at the policies, people. Find out what's wrong with the things that you keep talking about. Because people are talking about politicians doing the wrong thing. However, we're just letting them back in.
Very, very true. Well, you might not remember the name, but you possibly will recall the story. Courtney Stodden made headlines in 2001 when she married actor Doug Hutchinson when she was just 15 and he was 51. Thanks to the age difference, plus some pretty outrageous TV appearances, Stodden was the butt of many jokes, but it was the tweets from Chrissy Teigen that Courtney says broke her. She's released a 5-minute video about it. We're not going to play the whole thing, but here's some of what she had to say.
So this video is definitely calling out Chrissy Teigen. She stalked me. She harassed me. She bullied me. And keep in mind, I was a minor. I was 16 and 17 during her period of bullying me and hating on me. I'm not trying to say that she knew what was happening, but when there was a 16-year-old married to a 50-year-old and you have a celebrity with a platform like Chrissy's bullying a 17-year-old girl, 16, 17-year-old girl, it sticks with you. And I'm realizing how much Chrissy Teigen affected me.
Well, many of the tweets are still around, including the not-so-subtle post from Chrissy saying, I hate you. Ben, your thoughts on this? Is it genuine bullying to call out, or is it a publicity stunt?
I mean, of course this is a publicity stunt, but I mean, this is the thing. It is still an act of bullying. I mean, I watched that video and a lady with her boob out talking about some facts from years ago, which she could have called out, you know, a very long time ago. The whole thing just, I mean, she opens that video, which by the way is a 7-minute video, and she opens it by saying, you know, I'm kind of out of work at the moment and things aren't great. And I don't want to discount the fact that when the receipts are gathered, Chrissy has done the wrong thing. I mean, nobody should be with a profile, getting on social media and saying that they hate someone. What's the point in that? I mean, I guess that this girl has always polarized us, but bullying should never, ever be done, especially by someone much older than her.
Yeah, look, it's a hard one, isn't it? I'm a big fan of Chrissy Teigen and her Twitter account. It's hilarious. But I do...
Do you think it's hilarious to say that to young people on social media? I mean, is there any hilarity in actually... I mean, the screen grabs are there. The receipts are there. This person was much older than her and was continuously, repetitively... And this is what we need to understand in this country, in this world, is that bullying is made up of repetitive, mean, and collaborating other people against you. Those are the 3 terms that classifies as bullying. And Chrissy repetitively used her position of power to put this woman down. And look, she's not my cup of tea. I think she shouldn't have married a 50-year-old. I think she's looking for a headline. But we have to keep talking about the fact that it was the wrong thing.
What I wanted to say is I'm a big fan of Chrissy Teigen. So I love her Twitter account. I love her Twitter account. But I do think she went too far with these tweets. And you know what? She is not someone who thinks... I don't think she's someone who thinks about her position or power when she's tweeting. She's very active on Twitter. It's a dialogue. She just tweets. You know, she's almost like a normal person when it comes to Twitter. She's not a celebrity who just puts out their latest single or the latest thing that they're doing. So she does have a consciousness of thought. Now, she's obviously watched this, and I wasn't following Chrissy at the time. I'm a relatively new follower to her just in the last year. But it would seem to me, I would be surprised if Chrissy doesn't have some regrets about some of the tweets she said. Having said that, when you become this national, international headline and you're seeking publicity, which, as you say, this video does, there is going to be blowback, whether it's by a celebrity, which is uncommon, or the general public. I'm not a very public person, and I get blowback against me all the time on Twitter. There are people who look for the first fault I make and are happy to try and bring me down. And it's not always nice, but it is what it is. I think this woman is unfortunate that she has been in this kind of relationship, but she's still saying she loves this guy. She still says she wishes him all the best, even though he abused me and groomed me. So I'm very confused. She's probably a very confused person. Having said that, could it possibly be that the bullying from Chrissy made her think about the situation she was in and got out of?
No,
I
I'm sorry.
agree with you there, Rob, on that thing. Well, it's a possibility that you can kind of shine a light on it. But I'm going to say this to you guys. If you play football, you've got to expect to get grass stains. Think about that.
Okay.
Well, look, I think you're right, Robbo. Like, at the end of the day, but this is the thing.
Though? If you're going to play the game, you're part of it. So
Yes.
if you're going to be a celebrity and be out there, then you're going to be part of it. Yeah.
I was going to say, Robbo, have you ever had grass stains on your knees?
Only when I've been playing putt-putts. Putt-putt is what I've done.
Okay.
Cleaning up a glass of water here that
I just knew you were into sports. I
Robbo,
knew you were
what's
into
happened
ball
there?
sport.
Have you spilt the water, have you?
Yeah, I just spilt water and all the ice has gone everywhere, but that's okay. That's all right.
It's just another day on the show, really. At the end of the day, Rob, I think it is a little bit difficult with this case because, after all, she's a very polarizing character, but she was 16 when she married a 50-year-old. He did abuse her. It's a very hard topic to discuss when you pull, which is what we do these days. We want to make someone right. We want to make someone wrong. I think there's a whole lot of grey area here, but the headline should be that we don't bully anyone. And getting back to what you said before, where you're like, but maybe what Chrissy did led her to getting to where she needed to go to. I don't think ever writing that sort of stuff is the right thing.
Yeah, look, I actually think you're right, Ben, and I would be very interested to see what Chrissy Teigen says in response to this. Does she stand by the tweet she put out, or does she have regrets? I certainly have regrets
She
about
deleted
some of
them.
the things I put on Twitter. She deleted them, did she? Well, then
She
has
deleted it
regrets.
all. So, like,
No,
she's definitely got
she
regrets.
didn't. They're still up there. I got them this morning.
Yeah, I thought the news article said they were still up there.
No, I definitely.
I was trying to find them this morning
checked
and I
on
couldn't
Twitter.
find them. So,
A lot of things
Okay,
might have
forgive
changed
me.
in the last hour. All right, look, the coronavirus might have closed cinemas for now, but there's still plenty happening in the world of film. To find out the latest, we're joined by our very own Joe Casamento. Hello, Joe. Up.
she looks fabulous. I tell you
She
what.
looks fabulous. She was there. Okay, so Joe's not there. Why don't we go to the random live shot of the day for a moment and see where we're going to today?
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
And today we're going to the Penguin Enclosure at Long Beach, California. The forecast is mostly cloudy with a low of 16 degrees and a high of 21. And we're going to, look, the shot's gone very dark. A little earlier you could see the penguins. If you look very closely, you can see them there. But while we have a look at the penguins, let's take a look at some of the feedback coming into the Ben, Robin, Robbo show. And Travis says, everything could be considered racist, but if a wet market caused this situation, then they should be banned. Simple. Travis has also said, a politician taking responsibility? Never. And I'm just looking through. We're getting situation. Here we go. Our good friend Carlotta has been contacting us, and she says, still no excuse for bullies. And Ben, she's actually said thank you to you. She's taking part of the conversation on the TV Black Box Facebook page. And so we thank Carlotta for that. So if you want to send your feedback into the Ben, Robin, Robbo Show, use the hashtag BRR Show on Twitter. And on Facebook, you can go to the BRR Show, or you can go to TV Black Box. Okay, now
And
we're
we're back.
going to... Yeah, it wasn't a subtle fade, was it? Sorry, I had something on my mind and just went,
Ta-da!
all right, boom.
It's like Bewitched. Someone wiggled their nose and we just appeared.
All right, it's time to get the very latest news headlines. So let's go to Aaron Young in the Twitter newsroom. Good morning, Aaron. Good afternoon, Aaron.
Hello, gentlemen. Hope you're all very well. Let's have a look at the news headlines today. Media mogul Kerry Stokes calling on the Prime Minister to appease China's anger at Australia's push for an international inquiry into the origins of the coronavirus pandemic. Mr Stokes also defending the wet markets where the virus is believed to have broken out. NRL players refusing to return to training on Monday if a pay agreement is not reached for the revamped season. The impasse focuses primarily on the New Zealand Warriors, who are meant to travel through Australian quarantine barriers to resume their place in the competition. The Oscars make an historic shift today, allowing films that debut on streaming or video-on-demand platforms to participate in next year's awards. The Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences rules say films can only enter if they've been shown in a cinema for at least a week, but now cinemas are shut, so organisers say a temporary exception is okay. And Tesla has posted its third straight quarterly profit as the electric car maker records a solid number of deliveries. The coronavirus pandemic disrupting demand for cars, with automakers being forced to shut shop. Tesla's on the up, Ford recording a $2 billion loss. A Twitter poll today, we're asking you about AFL players. Should they be forced to isolate, allowing the game to come back with hubs? The results of our Twitter poll so far is yes, they should be forced to isolate. AFL players need to get the game to come back. 40% say no. You can continue weighing in. Ticker TV AU on the Twitter. Let's have a look at the weather map now right across the country. Melbourne a top of 15 degrees. It's freezing here. Sydney 23 degrees. Brisbane 29 degrees. Perth 22 degrees and Adelaide a cloudy top of 15. Have a look at the local markets now as well. On the up, as you see there, local markets, the ASX 200 has risen 1.5% over the past couple of hours. The energy, IT, industrials, material and real estate sectors all looking increasingly broad gains today. This is Ticker You Up to date. Now, girls, as I throw back to you, a Spanish news anchor has been caught cheating on Big Brother, would you believe, because his girlfriend was watching, and there's a semi-naked woman who walks through his live video call. Here is the rather handsome gentleman as he's appearing on the news. Everyone's working from home at the moment. Everything's going fine. There she goes. The nudist appears in the background. The cleaner, perhaps, the maid, whoever she is, Alfonso Merlos is in big trouble. And there you go. None of that happening in the back of this newsroom at this stage.
Oh, I'm
Now,
looking
Aaron,
closely. I'm looking
Aaron, I was
closely.
just going to say to you that, Aaron, do you remember when Three Men and a Baby came out? And there was apparently a ghost in the background, and everyone
Right,
kept
am I the
rewatching
baby
3
in
Men
this
and a Baby.
situation?
No, I think he should claim that that woman was a ghost baby,
Yes.
and that she wasn't really, you know, a slipper stress prostitute slash, you know, mistress.
Well, she's not a prostitute. She's
Well, I mean, there is the Big
journalist,
Brother
Ben.
aspect to this, though, Ben.
Oh.
So, yeah, this is the Big Brother situation, Ben. So, you might be able to give us some, insights into what to do in these situations.
Plead the fifth. Always
thing-
plead the fifth.
One thing that gets me about this is that Aaron was in for his news cross, then he wasn't, so I had to juggle the rundown, and I'm like, oh, there must be some breaking news.
I had the
What's
wrong
Aaron
mic
doing?
on. I'm very sorry. It was an Aaron bad situation where I'm sitting there yakking away, and the director says to me, there's absolute static coming through your mic, and I'm doing the old diva, Miss Piggy, how dare you, it's you, not me. But it was me. It was my fault. And I'm
No,
sorry
that's
that,
okay.
that happened.
At the end, I assumed you must have been just watching that footage of the naked woman coming through again and again. But
I have
maybe
never
not.
been accused of that, Rob, but thank you. I could get back in the will.
All right, Aaron. We will check in with on Monday. We will see you again in the new week of the Ben, Robin, Robbo Show. We'll talk to you then, mate.
Sounds great.
All right. As I said before, the coronavirus might have closed cinemas for now, but there's still plenty happening in the world of film. To find out the very latest, we're joined by our very own Joe Casamento, who is there this time. Hello, Joe.
Yes, hello. Oh, did you come over earlier? I had an incident.
Everyone's having it. You didn't have a naked man walking through, did you?
I certainly didn't. I just had a yapping dog and a hungry child. That was it.
Oh, okay. Well, we had a lovely still frame of you. But, Joe, there's been a bit of a brouhaha boiling between movie theatres and the big studios. What's going on?
That's right. This pandemic is turning into a bit of a nightmare, as you can imagine, for cinema chains. The latest shot fired is between the head of the ACM theatre chain, which is probably the biggest theatre chain in the world, and they have basically hit back at Universal Pictures, who made a statement saying that after the success of Trolls, which we discussed last week, which has been very successful on demand with their release, he has hit back and said they will not show any Universal Studios films if they do not stick to the current status quo in terms of release. So it's an interesting time for film studios.
And it's also an interesting time, Joe, with the Academy, isn't there? Because they're actually changing rules for next year's ceremony. What can you tell us?
That's right. As Aaron just mentioned, the Academy met this week, the Board of Governors, and they're a very tight, strict organisation. So this is something that's not done, easily. But they did agree this week that they would change the eligibility rules for next year's Oscars in terms of it does not have to have been released in cinema. The current rule was it had to have a 7-day run in an LA County cinema. And they've changed that and said it can be streamed. It can be a streamed movie. Having said that, not any flick can go for Oscar Gold. You still have to have planned for a cinema release and also make yourself available on the judging screening room, which costs thousands and thousands of dollars. So not any indie filmmaker is going to do that.
Right.
And Joe, I've got a question for you. I'm sure that you're absolutely loving isolation life just as much as I am, because we get a great opportunity to sit on our couches and watch some classic films or get involved with some TV shows. What are you watching at the moment?
Well, what aren't I watching? I'm watching everything. But after doing back-to-back Godfathers, I went for something light and I downloaded Like a Boss, which is the latest film with our very own Rose Byrne, Salma Hayek and Tiffany Haddish, as you can see there. We should take a little look. Rob, I think you've got a link.
Why is dream sex way better than real sex?
Because they come when you want them to.
Girl, that is so true. When I'm done, they done. Hello.
You ever think about all the stuff we've done and wonder how we did not die?
That's not her real hair. It's a cultural thing.
We are two badass queens like those bitches who raised Wonder Woman. We've worked our asses off. We've opened up our own store. We're winning.
We're $493,000 in debt.
What the?
Walk into the room.
Mel Page and Mia Carter. I'm Clara Luna. I am going to invest $1.7 million on you.
We would love $1 million.
But in my experience, business and friendship don't always mix.
You don't have to worry your pretty little head.
My head is not little. It's just that my breasts are humongous. If you want to be a businesswoman, you're gonna have to act like a boss. You have to fire him.
What? Don't hate me, hate Mel. It was her idea. What? Listen to us, Hey, witness my tragic moment.
Luna is introducing a new product at her launch party.
She just wants to steal our ideas.
We gonna break this bitch's back.
Oh, yours are made of stone.
Baby, I own you.
Y'all don't get Clara Luna down here right now. I'm gonna jump.
She's crazy. She will jump.
Oh, I'm so glad I be planking. I'm sorry, white lady, if I die on you today. You gonna give us our company back.
Drop it, shake it, pop it. Lift it, drop it, shake it. Going down for real.
I punched that bitch in the face.
I would marry you if I was in the coochie.
Ghost peppers, they are very spicy. Just a little sliver goes a long way.
Your peppers are really hot. It burns so bad, it hurts.
Have some bread. It'll soak it all up.
Oh, that's a lot of carbs. Here you go, honey.
Tracy
It's goat's
Jordan?
milk, so to coat the throat.
It's going down for real.
Joe, is it a bit of a trying to be bridesmaids or something like that?
It is totally. I mean, in fact, I was going to say, you've seen the trailer there. You really don't have to see the film. That was pretty much any of the highlights in it. It's very much a mishmash of all those, girls' night out and bad mums. I mean, I think it started with The Hangover, didn't it? Which was a good version. They've just got worse and worse. Thin plot. Oh, it's like it was written by a 13-year-old boy. It's got dick and what are we allowed to say? Are we G-rated? What are we?
We're PG. We're PG.
We all laughed. All the
PJ,
boys
so,
just laughed as soon as he said that. So,
So it's got all the silly boy humour. I do not know why this cast of talented women, Rose Byrne, fabulous actress.
I
Salma Hayek,
know.
I mean, you just saw her there. Why? It's even got Lisa Kudrow in for a second, and it's also got, I mean, you saw American Pie Mum, who really hasn't changed her role. I just don't understand why such a talented group of women would sign up for this. It is so thinly plotted. It is lame. There is nothing. None of the jokes land. I don't think I laughed once.
How many
I've
choc
gotta
tops?
say, if I'm giving it choc tops, I'm only going to give it one, and that is purely because the film company sent me a bottle of pink champagne. Cash to comment.
good on you, Joe.
And I'm sure they'll be sending you another one after that review. So, Joe, before we go, tell me about the big releases. What's happening with them? They've been delayed?
They have. So like we were just saying, a lot of the film companies have released their big ones. They're not releasing them all to streaming services. But while we're waiting, there have been some great trailers to keep us occupied. And the big one is Top Gun Maverick, which has got fans in an absolute tizzy. You've got Tom Cruise, of course, returning in the great role. Iceman is coming back, Val Kilmer. No Kelly McGillis. We have Jennifer Connelly as the lead female, and the trailer's got everyone revved up because the stunts on this are incredible. Tom had everyone literally learning how to simulate flights. So it's going to be a massive one in the action stakes, and they're looking for a December release date at this point in time. So I reckon we should take a look.
Your instructor is one of the finest pilots this program has ever produced. His exploits are legendary. What he has to teach you may very well mean the difference between life and death.
Your reputation precedes you.
I have to admit, I wasn't expecting an invitation back.
They're called orders, Maverick.
This is your captain speaking. Today's exercise is dogfighting.
2 versus 1? He's got to be kidding.
So that trailer originally said June 2020, but it's going to be much later, Joe.
That's right, 6 months. Tell me that didn't give you goosebumps, fellas. Robbo, do you ever feel the need for speed? Come on.
Oh, I always feel
It
the need
did,
for
didn't
speed,
it?
and I can't wait for this movie. I love it. I just wish, I'm going to miss Goose from the original, obviously, but he can't really make a comeback because he kind of got really splattered.
No.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
I'm
he
excited.
did. But Miles Teller is the young gun in that, and he looks, well, pretty nice to look at. Pretty easy on the eye, I reckon. So definitely one to watch for.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe. We will see you next Thursday as we talk everything
Too early
film.
to drink?
Yes, please send it my way. I think we all need a drink. See you later, Joe. Much
Bye.
love. All right. Now it's time for the entertainment report with Ben. Hello again, Benny.
Well, I am very excited to be giving you the entertainment gossip on this Thursday. And Jimmy Fallon has been making news headlines. Obviously, his show is no longer in studio, and he's been doing a lot of these Zoom calls with his guest. Now, it turns out, while he's an amazing talk show host, he is maybe not the best at giving advice on dating. So I think we have a little clip of him getting called out by Kate Hudson, another famous actress, who has claimed that he missed out on an opportunity of dating her. Have we got that clip?
That's not the story at all. Oh my God.
No, it is, because I was a single girl and I was in New York, and, you know, life was what it was. Like, if you would have been like, hey, like, you know, who knows? Our whole life trajectory could have been different, Jimmy.
Well, you know, this is not the first time. So I was referring to this a little bit earlier, and that is that he missed out on dating Nicole Kidman, and she's been back on the show to rub that in a few times. And now it turns out that he missed out on dating Kate Hudson. Well, at least the two of them showed some really good chemistry on their chat. And if you haven't seen it, check it out, because it's actually quite good. As you can tell, I'm a big Jimmy Fallon fan. And talking about being a fan of something, back in the 90s, Tuesday night was a bitch. That's right, Melrose Place is back. Well, actually, it's just back for one reunion episode. And I tell you what, the gang got back together, and I can show you right now. This is some reminiscent footage of the guys. They look amazing. I can't believe it. They look exactly the same age as what they did back then. Botox is obviously doing great things in Beverly Hills. But as you can see, Josie Pizzette, Thomas Calabro, Marsha Cross, Laura Lighton, Doug Savant, Grant Show, Andrew Shue, just to name a few of the big stars. So many iconic moments in Melrose Place, and it was interesting to see that the gang managed to get back together. Daphne Zuniga was saying that when it came to asking Amanda Woodward / Heather Locklear, or that goes the other way, to come back, apparently Heather Locklear said, absolutely, I'd love to. We've got a little clip of everyone getting back together. We're going to play that now. This was the chat which happened on Tuesday around the world.
This is the first time everyone's gotten together in like 8 years. And we just said, well, we asked Marsha Cross.
We did a Desperate Housewives reunion, and at the end she was like, do you want Melrose Place? We're like, yes.
Do we want Melrose Place? Absolutely. Look, a friend of the TV Black Box show was able to slide into my DMs and let me know that Melrose Place reunion was happening, and it was amazing. It goes for an hour and 20 minutes, so it's probably for the diehard fans.
And
also
and
making
it's
news
interesting,
is...
Ben, it's the only show that hasn't come back, really, so it's about time for Melrose Place.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because in 2009 they rebooted Melrose Place and they only managed to get through the very first series. But look,
right.
I think with shows being rebooted and rebooted again, I'm going to say the Melrose cast could do a prequel. They look so young these days. Like, seriously.
They look
they've
younger
obviously
than when
been...
they did at the time.
They look better. They look amazing. I was looking at Grant Show, who played, a very famous character on the show. I thought he looks just as sexy now. Anyway, no one wants to know who I think is sexy, so we'll move on. Well, Katie Holmes has also been making some big headlines at the moment. She must be promoting a movie because she's back talking about Tom Cruise. A shout out to Coletta, who is a follower of the show. She's not a big fan of Tom Cruise. Well, Tom Cruise apparently hasn't actually made contact with his daughter, who he had with Katie Holmes now for 3 years. It would appear that he has now, underneath the Scientology, has cut all connections with Katie Holmes, and that has involved cutting off a connection with his daughter. Now, Robbo, what do you reckon? Do you think that being a Scientologist is a big enough excuse to never see your daughter again?
I think this is a really sad story. If a parent isn't seeing their child, I think that's really sad. But Tom Cruise is, he's a little bit weird. We know that. And we also have got to acknowledge those long-held rumours that the marriage was just a contract anyway.
Yeah, and she's
Well,
never
you're
spoken
probably
about
right.
the marriage. She has never spoken about it. She has never done anything like that because we think of that contract.
Well, this is the thing, is that if you look back to Mimi Rogers, Nicole Kidman, Katie Holmes, all of these women were plagued with rumours that, this was a contractual relationship. And if you look at this now, it certainly does feel that way. But for me personally, and with Joe Casamento, I still will go and see Top Gun 2 because I'm a bit of a Tom Cruise fan. Can I admit that?
You can, yes, I think that's fine. I think there is a difference between the personal person and the actor. We have to,
100%.
We're supposed to forget the actor and embrace what we're seeing at the movie. So I don't have a problem with that, mate.
Absolutely. And also making some news, and still making news, is Joe Exotic from The Tiger King. Now, just over the last couple of days, the Daily Mail has had a TV exclusive. We've been able to see some footage, which we're going to play now, of exactly what Joe Exotic's sex dungeon looked like. There's, obviously in the documentary, there's the appearance of both of his husbands, apparently connected to drugs and sex, and it just is such an outrageous documentary. It shouldn't be that surprising, really, that we're getting this footage now of just how gross and grotty that whole Joe Exotic was. I think a lot of people who are pro Joe Exotic are getting wrapped up in the Carol Baskin drama and probably not realising just how much of a sicko this man really was. I mean, Robbo, do you think he's a bit of a sicko?
What's sick about him?
The dungeon that he had where he didn't even bother cleaning up before performing sexual acts?
Cleaning up? No, I don't know what that means, but I understand that the employees of the zoo went in there and trashed it after he left the zoo. So I think what we're seeing those pictures is just from, it being trashed because they were glad that he left. I think it's a really common story, and it almost goes into the realm of poverty porn. And that is that let's look at how people who are less fortunate, how they live. And I think that's kind of a topic that we should cover on this show at another time. But yeah,
Well,
I think it's sad all
seriously,
round, really.
I think this is a really good point. We will do this on Monday. We will make this one of the topics in the first segment of the show, because I think there is something to this. But Ben, it's Thursday. It's our beginning of our weekend. Let's end on a high. What's your TikTok video of the day?
This one's a good one. I'm just going to play this because, Rob, you sent it to me. I started laughing and I haven't felt like I've ever stopped. TikTok of the day is a guy that filmed this overseas. All I can say is roll clip and have a good laugh.
Yeah, well, another challenge, right? All right, I've had several requests to do this one. I'm going to give it a shot today. I was bet $200 I couldn't drink it. Anyway, we got Diet Coke and Mentos. I don't know how much to put in there, but we're going to try it like this right there. We got us some Mentos like this right here. We're going to open them. How many are you supposed to put in there? I don't know, so we're going to put 2 in there. How about that? All right, Dan. All right, here we go. You ready for this right here? Okay, we're going to put 3. Okay, I don't know what to do here.
Is he all right?
That's some serious shit.
All right, Ben, here's your challenge.
Remember, Rob, really quickly, we did that massive thing on Studio 10 where we dunked a lot of people wearing Mentos suits into Diet Coke. Do you remember that? That was
I do. I
outrageous.
made you do it twice, Robbo, because I wasn't happy with the first attempt. And on the second one, you had been burnt so much from the Mentos on your body. On the second one, you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But here's my challenge. Ben, I know I've been speaking to your partner, Ben. I know you have some Diet Coke. I know you have some Mentos. I'm about to interview Peter Hellier. So at the end of that interview, we are running out of time, but I want to see you do that Mentos challenge. How about that? Yay! We'll make it happen.
Okay. Thank you.
So go and
I'll
set
see
that
you
up.
soon. Enjoy Peter Hellier.
And thank you for everything. All right. Despite many Australian productions shutting down during the COVID-19 pandemic, we're still at the point where new shows are coming through which were made before the crisis changed our lives. One such local production is Channel 10's How to Stay Married, a wonderful little show that explores the daily life of the Butler family. Comedian Peter Hellier not only stars in the series, but he created it as well, and he joins us now. Peter, welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
Thank you, Ben, Rob and Robbo.
Well, I'm going to hog the limelight for the moment. Peter, I've got to say, how thrilled must you be to have a season 2 of this show, which has just been so universally loved?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're stoked. I mean, to be honest, to get one season of a half-hour scripted comedy narrative on a commercial network felt amazing, and then so to get a season 2, we were thrilled. We were thrilled with, because I think it's great to have Australian comedy on the commercial network. The ABC have probably, well, not probably, definitely shouldered the burden for way too long. So hopefully this is the start of more locally made comedy.
I hope so too, although in this environment it's very, very tough, isn't it? With all the restrictions in place and all the productions being shut down, you must feel blessed that you got this series done and dusted before this pandemic kicked in.
Absolutely. We would have liked to have done the second season earlier, to be honest, but my schedule is a bit full on, and we just we didn't want to rush into it as far as the writing, and we wanted to get it right. So, but you're absolutely right. Thank God we did, because I reckon if we had have been disrupted, it would have felt like maybe too far from the first series. Possibly. I mean, maybe not. But thank God we did, and now we can potentially go into a development of use this time to develop a third season. So we're hopefully ready to go once we come out of this.
Have 10 already started talking to you about a possible third season?
Only kind of very casually, but I know the numbers on 10 Play have been great, and I guess they'll merge those with numbers we get when we go to air, and those discussions will be had. But I think everybody at the moment, I don't think anyone's talking too far into the future about production at the moment.
That's just hard
I
to
think
know.
everyone's just heads down and hands on deck when we can, and hopefully we get through this, and I'm sure we will. But the fact is, content is going to be needed at the end of this.
Absolutely. How do you feel about the fact that the Series 2 has premiered on 10 Play before broadcast? Because obviously traditionally it's the other way round, but there is a whole new playing field happening online with streaming services and the catch-up services. How does it feel being on the catch-up service before broadcast?
Rob, if 10 came to me a few months ago and said we want to launch on 10 Play before we go on air, I would have said no thanks. Yeah. That wouldn't have been something I would have been excited about. We had a strategy. We're excited about being on the first season. Kind of the first few episodes were on during the ratings period, and then we were no longer in the ratings period, so we lost some of our lead-ins like The Bachelor and How to Stay Married for the encore. Sorry, have you been paying attention for the encore? So then we had a few time changes, which is not helpful, as you know. So we were really excited about having a really solid, time, maybe mid-year, to be on air for the 8 weeks, and then Channel 10 a few weeks ago came to me on a Friday and said, would you consider putting it on 10 Play? There's a lot of people at home, obviously. There's a lot of eyeballs, on television at the moment. And to be honest, it came down for me. It was as a comedian, I'm not on the front line of the fight against coronavirus. That's the medical workers and the government leaders are doing that. But as a comedian, the one thing I can do is provide content to help in a very small way, help people navigate this kind of weird time. And if you're sitting on an 8-part, locally made comedy series that's ready to go, it kind of made sense to put it out in the world. So We did that, and yeah, I mean, it's going great on Template, and the feedback's been fantastic. So, and I think potentially it could be something that we see more often, that you launch on the streaming service and then go to air, and so it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
It's a time of experimentation, and that's a great thing. And let's be honest, we need to see more of those flashback wigs, and more of those would be great. But
and cruise storylines.
Yes. What I want to do is, the opening scene of season 2 spoke to me so much as a father.
Yeah, every storyline that we cover has come from either my experiences, certainly everything that's in the show, I think I've experienced. But also, we had a great, writers' room, a development room, and so everything you see has come from a very real place. There's an episode which I'm particularly fond of, where Greg tries to make a friend as a new dad at school, and he's Spanish and he's really cool, and Greg's really excited by him. He's really excited about making a new adult friend. But then M doesn't quite get along with his wife, and that makes it awkward. And I've been in that situation where you think, oh, there's a new friend, but the wives don't get along. It's like, oh,
yeah, I think we've all been there.
So, and there's a storyline about our oldest daughter sexting. There is an episode where I'm supposed to be at home waiting for the NBN. I think we've tapped into things that people go through, and sometimes they're big things, and there's certainly this series a more emotional kind of storyline involving M. She gets an opportunity at work that kind of puts her in Greg's firing line eventually, and then there's little things like forgetting that Book Week was you're supposed to be dressing up for Book Week today. The Book Week parade's going to be on, and the flurry of the panic that sets in after that.
Been there. Mate, let's talk about the coronavirus just for a moment. As a comedian, stand-up's a big part of your world. How are your mates in the industry coping without that ability to be performing and making a living?
Yeah, it's really tough, and I'm extraordinarily lucky to be in a position I am. I can still go and do the project. So I can talk about that. That it's that it's I'm lucky, and I get to do all these things, and I can have fun at home by providing content, and whether it's being on Instagram or doing strawny on Instagram again just for fun. But I've got mates who would have done a tour this year, and it would have been 50-60% of what they earn, or even higher in some instances. So putting aside the mental health angle of just needing that release, comedians, we do this because we kind of need to do it, for it to hit right in festival season. I mean, the
Melbourne International Comedy Festival,
yeah, I mean,
big loss.
Which absolutely, and the money that would have been outlaid already for publicity and all the things you need to do. It's huge, and I really worry. And there's the government have not announced a single thing for the arts community, and there's Tony Burke has pointed out the arts industry, whether it be comedians or musicians, they're the first to put their hand up when you need to raise money, for your school or for the bushfire relief.
It's a very good point.
They're there to help out, and I feel like we've really been left in the lurch. And when people think about the arts industry, I think they think about art that you hang on walls, but art is it's TV, it's comedy, it's movies, it's books. Try getting through quarantine without art in your life, and then consider that this government has not helped out at all. Now, I think the government's done a really good job navigating this crisis, but I would love to see something announced that could help artists.
It would be good, wouldn't it? Because, as you say, we're all turning to streaming services and television at the moment, so we're consuming that art content, but we're not actually helping the people who are providing that content.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, mate, the project has done great guns during this crisis. Its ratings are up big time, but it must be weird doing it without a studio audience. Again, that feeding off that live studio audience.
Yeah, when they told me, Rob, I was like, but how does the show work? And obviously it affects, myself and Tommy Little and the comedians, Susie Youssef and who come on the show. Wally can operate without an audience. But I was concerned, but I must say, really quickly, it became quite fine and quite comfortable, and because we are still trying to keep the balance of having some fun, but also obviously reporting what's going on. Often it can be a bit grim, but what it's meant is that we're not necessarily responding and reacting to the audience in a good way. We're not kind of being navigated by the fact that they might clap or they might laugh, and then sometimes if you get a laugh, that as you would know, the tendency is to get out on the laugh, so move on to the next thing.
Yes.
What we're finding, we're having better conversations in many ways because we're not playing to that. We're kind of it's almost like a dinner party conversation.
Yeah. Okay, because that is, you get that laugh, a line producer. I've done the exact same thing. We'll say, all right, that's a great out, move on, So that's very interesting that it's changed your on-air conversations.
Absolutely. And it's probably bought us another 2 minutes in, from, because you clap on the way back from an ad break, you clap out on an ad break, there's, laughter that,
But do you want the audience back?
No, well, I do. And I think Karen Wiley, when pressed, will probably, love to have the audience back because they do make a great difference. But I think there'll be lessons we take out of this period. I think that we make sure we remember when we, when life goes back to normal.
I think that's for everyone. Peter, the show starts on Tuesday. I can't wait to watch it again. Thank you very much for being on the Ben, Rob and Robbo show. My
absolute pleasure.
And How to Stay Married, as I mentioned, Season 2 starts this Tuesday on Channel 10 and the Win Network. We have spoken so long, but I want to go quickly to Ben. Ben, have you got the Mentos standing by? Ticker are waiting. We need to hurry up.
Okay, I'm doing it. It's just very cold in Melbourne. I'm just going to take this lid off. Okay, here we go. Oh. I've got huge nostrils and I think I snorted it all.
I love the things people do
Well
for
done.
TV. That is another week of the Ben,
Well
Rob
done.
and Robbo show. Thank you for being with us. Robbo, you didn't have to do it this time.
No, I like that. But I love Ben's performance.
Speak to Robbo.
All right, we'll see you next week. Now stay right here on Ticker for the latest news headlines. We'll see you on Monday at 1 o'clock.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo show.